often do you answer emails or phone calls after hours?
Oh, all the time. As soon as I get into my house, I'm answering an email.
Is it expected of you at work?
Yes.
Pretty much every day, often to the annoyance of my wife. So a lot of times I will turn off my cell phone just to fight the temptation.
Yeah, there should be a standard policy. Yeah, I think that would make it easier for the average person to determine what they should be doing instead of putting that onus on themselves.
Well, in today's digital age, the 9-to-5 workday is virtually a thing of the past. But should employees have the right to disconnect after hours? Well, one province is considering legislation that would force companies to make sure their staff can unplug when they leave the office. One Quebec politician is proposing companies be required to adopt an after-hours disconnection policy, tabling a private member's bill last week proposing fines for companies that fail to do so. And he's not alone. As part of its public consultation to improve labor standards, the federal government released an online survey earlier this year that included several questions about right to disconnect regulations. One employment lawyer we spoke with says written policy is a good idea, but she believes any legislation could be tough to implement.
You see a lot of employers who are now interested in, well, how do we address these issues with work-life balance? Because the smartphone does create a scenario where people are responding to emails into the night. And the question is, how do we create a workforce that doesn't become demoralized because they are overly stressed out and working around the clock? I think every company should have a clear-cut policy on what the expectations are. And you must keep in mind that expectations are going to vary from industry to industry. I don't think a legislative change where there might be some punitive measures taken against an employer is going to solve the problem. I think, some of these legislative recommendations are far too difficult to implement. I think they're going to create a lot of problems, and then the question really becomes what qualifies as an exception.
Just last week in New York, a councilman announced he wants to make it illegal to force employees to access work-related electronic communications from home, with some exceptions, and to ban employers from punishing staff who refuse to answer emails or attend work socials after hours. Now, one country has already adopted legislation around the right to unplug. France changed its labor laws last year, forcing companies with 50 employees or more to come up with after-hour email policies.